This episode is brought to you by the RVA Podcast Network. Find more information at rvapodcast.org.
We do not own the rights to anything or any music that's heard during the duration of this podcast. Also, a lot of these shows will have explicit content. So if you are not a fan of any cursing or profanity, you may want to walk away, but that does not mean that every show will consist of such.
Are you serious? Like, we at season 7, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 seasons. Yeah, season 7. Magic number. If you know, you know. I'm not gonna go in depth with that, but yeah, this will be a very positive season. I don't know why and what's making me say that, but everything's changed. Everything is a lot different. I know the title you'll still see the podcast about sports and stuff, but yeah, I ain't gonna get no sports. I'm still, like I said, stuff is very fluctuating now. I found that the connection with things is to get people to talk, as well as me taking time to talk. So you'll notice it, especially when you hear the first few episodes of this season. But it's just about sitting down and just having good talk, good conversation. Pass the message. Y'all know they ain't going nowhere. If you know, you know. If you've been around for a while, you already know how we give it up. But just hang in there. The content's amazing. The moves are even more amazing. And just put yourself in the right headspace to get this information. So hope y'all enjoy. What's going on, y'all? Episode 365 of the podcast is here. I am your host, BT, doing my traditional library flow. Decided to go to my counterpart from where I normally record and give y'all some good content because a lot happened. It's so funny. I recorded the podcast that Wednesday. Wednesday night, a lot of trades happened. And then Thursday, it was like the trade pipes just went crazy in sports. So I will go ahead and let y'all, I'll be clear in saying this. February will probably be a lot of sports topics talked about. March, we're going to change things and kind of give the content back to where it was intended to start, which is with more of where it's been heading to, which is more with the tech and kind of just finding your way into the tech scene. I've had some interesting dialogue over the last couple of hours to kind of give people around me and also give myself a little bit more clarity on making that transition into tech, because the problem is, and I'm going to start with this before I go into the topics I have. The problem is people tell you that it's easy to get into tech, or they give you different dialogues or ideas or suggestions or recommendations, but no one's really giving you the actual way to obtain skills without the certs or without. They give you an option or a way to get an avenue of getting in, but no one's really telling you how to get in. And I've talked about this a lot, off and on, either within the podcast or just as a general rule of thumb. Topic. Gatekeeping is a real thing. And a lot of people will either gatekeep or paywall their way to giving information. And sometimes that can be a good thing. Sometimes that can be a bad thing. I'm probably going to talk about this now. And I'm not going to put any businesses or individuals or brands in this context, but I'm going to talk about this too, because this kind of ties into this. There are endless ways to create networks and connect with people who are like-minded at what you do or what your skill set is. The prices that a lot of people charge for a lot of various services that are available, astronomically ridiculous. There are some people who practically can do a lot of the things that you need done for free. I've had people talk to me for years, bringing up the idea and the concept of doing podcasts, webinars, or offering classes to start podcasting. And I always end up not necessarily on the fence about it, but just kind of looking at it as it's not as complicated as people think it is. I think a lot of it is just the mind over matter ideology. I attended a masterclass that was very uneventful, only because the more you sit and realize, like, masterclasses have become the new, I don't even want to say the new pyramid scheme, but it's more so the new way to get folks together and say, hey, let's all get excited to get on board with what we're getting ready to do. But in order to be a part of it, you got to pay us $2,000 or you got to pay us $700, $800. And to be realistic, a lot of people don't have that kind of money just sitting around, especially if you're looking at, you know, having to maintain bills and, you know, uphold your life the way it is already. And a lot of times I think it's just people are in need of finding someone who can be considered as part of their village or part of their tribe. I am open in telling people, and I've had friends who come to me, people who have known me for upwards of, I've had friends who recently met me in the last couple of years, friends who have known me for over 5, 10, 15 years, 20 years, and they come to me with simple questions that anybody else were to give the information, oh no, that's $100 fee for me to even talk to you about this information. Because the truth of the matter is, and I say this time and time again, starting a podcast, all it takes is a microphone and a software or a recording application. It's all down to preference. If you want to save, I tell people, if you're saving money and you want to start off, use Audacity, learn Audacity, just kind of the basics. You don't need to do anything technical, specific, fancy. Just learn how to hit record and talk. That's going to be your biggest avenue. If you have a Mac, try GarageBand. GarageBand comes with your computer. I know I'm early on giving this in the 5-minute mark. It'll probably be the 6-minute mark after adding the intro and outro. But I want to make people aware. And this is interesting because I'm saying this to you all, but I'm also telling me the things that we feel like are so complicated are very simple if we just put the time and effort into doing them. Obviously, many of you, if you obviously looking at the title of the shows and looking at the previous episodes I've done, I've been in the game for a while. So me doing podcasts is second nature. My other avenues, well, no, I can say avenues because between coding as well as graphic and web design, those are kind of new but old but refreshing, you know, kind of like a refresher course. And I have my intimidating factors or intimidating points with those as well. So I understand this aspect of it. Like, I have a friend of mine now who I support her all the time, but I really support her and really am proud of her for putting the effort that she has into podcasting and understanding it and learning and finding her way to do podcasting. Because anyone can give you the information to tell you what they would do or what they did to start. But my way of starting might not be your way of starting. Like, my way of starting, believe it or not, was I had a Samson I've told this story before on the podcast, but I'll share it again. I had a Samson Media microphone. Didn't know what I was doing. Using that microphone, I was going into the default application for Spreaker at the time and just recording audio. I then learned that you needed to record through an application because I also was one, which a lot of people still don't understand. I'm a person, I don't like doing live recordings, just not my thing. So I share that because I needed to find a program that could pre-record the episodes. So the first thing that came to mind, let's try GarageBand. It's built into my Mac. What could go wrong? I did a couple episodes using GarageBand. GarageBand was cool. It did its job for what it needed to do its job for. The processing between creating the audio, getting the audio uploaded, all that was just not working for me. So at the time when I was using it in that form, I was using Adobe Audition. I literally taught myself how to use Adobe Audition. I sat down, I just grinded and figuring out how to remove background noise, how to level the audio so that regardless if I'm talking too loud or too soft, it'll even out or balance out. All of that can be learned. And like I said, I'm saying it about podcasting, but even down to my designing, I'm realizing more and more that dedicating the time and the effort to what you want to do and what you're trying to do is going to require, without requiring sacrifice. And it's going to require you to kind of move and operate a little differently than what you're accustomed to operating with. And there's nothing wrong with that. You just have to say what I was saying, be okay with the consequences of that. So I know I said I was going to start with trades, but I wanted to get that out of the way before I go any further. So any of you who, and I do this as a personal push, but I also do this as a realistic dialogue. If tech is your avenue and you want to learn tech, reach out. If you're unsure or you have an idea of wanting to do podcasting, but you really don't know where to start, or you need someone. And I've done this with people before. I pretty much will say, hey, I will bring my equipment, let you kind of get a feel of what recording and all that looks like. And I'll let you kind of be comfortable with just talking. And then once you get your talk flow going, and if I need to give any feedback accordingly, then I'll give feedback. Like for instance, my number one rule, I tell everyone to do a podcast, and I didn't do it now. I don't think I did it last week. Always have water. Bottle of water goes a long way. Like literally, you'd be surprised. Like in the middle of recording, cotton mouth is real, dry mouth is real. You will literally find yourself trying to get words together, but then you're just, I can't get, and it's like, but I mean, hey, you pushing your voice to its maximum, especially with the amount of words we speak a day, per minute, per hour, per second. So yeah, just being more aware of that and just kind of taking that into account is very important. So yeah, trade deadline happened, and a lot of people moved. That was surprising. I believe on the last show we did talk about Kyrie moving, Kyrie going to Dallas. They did play a game or two together. He did have an opportunity to play on the floor with Luka. It looks like that's going to work. Someone brought up an interesting point on the video, and I never paid it any attention. The fact that the Mavs are to the point where where they have Theo Pinson starting as a center, not throwing shade, but it's just, this is when you need to realize, like, let's see what big men are out there, aka Dwight Howard, aka they're talking with LaMarcus Aldridge about possibly signing. I'm just like, we're at that point of basketball where he hasn't played. I don't think he's played in over a year. So, I mean, hey, if it works, it works. Two other big surprise trades that happened were Durant going to Phoenix. We're likely not going to see Kevin Durant play in Phoenix until after the All-Star break, which was expected, especially with them already putting players in place, 4 different players who were starters to play in the All-Star game. Russell Westbrook got traded. The Lakers did like a lot of last second moves that no one expected. Like they traded Thomas Bryant to Denver. Then they traded Patrick Beverley to Orlando for Mo Bamba, which was interesting because if you know the story, him and Mo Bamba got into like a little scuffle. I believe it was last season or something like that. He talks about it on his podcast. Because every time when I thought about that story, I was like, that's kind of ironic that happened, but hey, it is what it is. Westbrook went to Utah. The question now is becoming whether he's going to buy out. They were able to the Lakers got D'Angelo Russell. Conley went to Minnesota. Chicago didn't really do any movement. Cleveland didn't do any movement. New York was able to trade Cam Reddish for Josh Hart. Still one of the most interesting things that I've ever seen is a player being in the lineup going through like pre-game workout, ritual, routine, whatever, and then being told that you're being traded like while you're in the midst of your workout. I was like, this is another level of intense. But hey, it is what it is. Like I said, a lot of other players got traded. Those are the main marquee trades that I wanted to talk about because I was uncertain. I was like, maybe they won't do much movement and it'll kind of be like a chill trade deadline. But nah, folks was getting moved left and right. Like the question on the table was Zach LaVine going to get traded? He ended up not being traded. I'm trying to think of some other iconic names. Serge Ibaka got traded. Somehow he was able to get picked up. I forgot what team picked him up. Because a lot of players were traded, but then their contracts were bought out. Patrick Beverley looking to buy his contract out. Oh, and this is the one that still baffles me. John Wall being traded back to Houston. Eric Gordon was part of that trade. And I think John Wall is looking to get bought out by Houston based on the contract. It was another one that, I think the trade officially has gone through, but Gary Payton, the second, was involved in a multiple team trade that brought him back to Golden State, but they were uncertain of him being traded based on him taking a possible medication that was looked at as illegal by NBA guidelines. I'm freestyling with that, but they ended up kind of overriding all of that, and he's going to play for Golden State. So it'll almost be like he never left in a sense because he literally played like half of the season for Portland, and now he's coming back to the team that he was just playing. He just won a championship with. What are the odds? So if you've been under a rock, if you aren't surprised where I'm about to go, Super Bowl happened this weekend, this past Sunday. It was a very unique way of using the term tale of two halves. First half, Philly was just on a run. Philly just played very solid football. The obvious and the key part of this game, and one of the guys at the house where I was watching the game said this, and I 100% agree with him. Whoever did not play perfect football was going to lose. And Philadelphia was that team who did not play perfect when it mattered. And what I mean by that is there were plays and there were opportunities that Philly needed to like really get the ball moving and get into scoring, and they didn't. First half, it was funny because, and I as long as I've watched Super Bowl, I never paid any attention to the goalpost until like the ball hit, like the kicker for the Chiefs kicked the field goal, and you could literally hear the ball boing off of the goalpost. Like it was almost like a microphone was right where he hit it. But nonetheless, Kansas City ended up winning. Patrick Mahomes got his second title. As a admin / moderator of a sports group, we've already made it clear all of the conversation of GOAT needs to rest. He's won 2 championships. He's barely been in the league for he's been in the league 5 years. Relax. Let's let the man get through 9 or 10 seasons, and he's still kind of, I want to say he's 2 years into the mega deal he signed with Kansas City. Let's wait, and also let's see how they're going to build around him. The controversial call, of course, related to whether Juju was held or not. The player ended up saying that he did actually pull his pulled his jersey. So it's kind of like, it was almost like an accountability factor, but then on the same token, it was like he really didn't need to be accountable for it. But, one play can make such a big impact, and you may or may not know the ramifications or the aftermath of it until it all plays out. And that's what we pretty much saw happen. The commercials were I mean, the commercials, I rolled with it. Like, I watched most of them. They were pretty decent. There weren't any there I really could retain or that stood out to me. I think the ones that everybody kept talking about was with Tubi, because how it would play out was almost making you think you were pressing your remote, but you weren't, because of how it would like go through the different channel options. But it was just it was just kind of being viewed as giving the visual as if it was happening in your home, and it never was. Rihanna's expecting. We learned that from her halftime performance, which let me go ahead and get this out the way now. Rihanna did a great job performing the songs that she performed in the circumstances that she personally was under. I won't say pressure, but the circumstances she was under. I think it's so wild and so mind-blowing how media does a job of mediating certain things. This is one of those examples. And what I mean by that is there was a lot of not a lot, but New York Times pointed out the song list that she chose, but not really understanding and this is something that I'm big on. Black creators have a very unique challenge when it comes to being creative, because even when we are creative, our creativity gets questioned and gets challenged and gets battled because no one understands the method to the madness. And you have to literally sit and well, what I was doing was I was explaining this, or I was giving you this. Like, for instance, with me I've been doing my podcast over 7 years, give or take. It's never surprised me more now how much people may or may not realize. If you listen to my shows enough times, you understand my format and my style. But there are some people who are like, well, I think you should talk about this, or I feel like you get a better audience if you brought these type of topics in. And I'm like, that tells me that you don't listen to my podcast, which is nothing. There's nothing wrong with that, but that gives me a better understanding of your perspective of what I talk about versus what my content consists of on a day-to-day basis. And the same apply with Rihanna. Like, Rihanna, if you look at the video, if you look at how it all played out, even someone was breaking down, which I didn't even pay attention to. There was one point where the platforms kind of gave the look from like Smash Bros. And she may not even be a gamer to think of it on that level, but most gamers had their brains like understanding that concept. And I was like, this is how creativity can go to another level and we don't even know it. Her dancers were all wearing white. She was wearing red. She wore the red. The jacket and the outfit she wore was to honor. I don't remember the individual's name, but it was to honor a gentleman who had passed away, I believe, last year or the year before. And they were very close. So it was a jacket that he had in a picture that she was wearing in a similar fashion. And also it was kind of to give, like, I will say this in the cleanest and calmest way possible, to give a better understanding of the woman. I will leave it at that and leave it to your imagination. And then at the end, of course, she showed where she, you saw her and you pretty much saw her standing there like, yeah, if you know, you don't need to break it down. And I think even when I put up a post about it, like, a lot of people, I ain't gonna say a lot of people, but some folks were a little mixed on what I was saying, and meaning it as like, why is it such a big deal? And I'm like, it's not that I'm not taking for granted what she's done or did in her performance. I just looked at it as her being her and her living her life. It's like we spend so much energy in the lanes and the avenues of other celebrities that we ignore our own lane. And that's a whole nother podcast and a whole nother conversation on its own. But it's just something that I've observed and I've noticed more now than ever before, because it's like we're being critical of someone who literally just gave us like a solid performance, even under the circumstances she was in. So, I mean, it's almost like the inadvertent phrase of like, give credit where credit is due and don't ignore what you've seen because of what you feel or where you stand on certain things, I guess, is kind of where I'm going with that. But Yeah, she did a great job with the show. It was a good halftime show. I think the halftime show, if I saw it on YouTube, might have been like 18 minutes long. And as most people know, usually the halftime segment total is like 30 minutes. So, and I think the biggest thing, I always think about this because I was bringing it up when we were watching like the introductions. The presentation for this level of an event, you cannot allow or give yourself any room to make any mistakes or errors, because not because the media is going to do, like I said, the media is going to media, but more so because if some type of snafu happens, like what was it, a couple of years ago when the Ravens played the 49ers and the lights went out, like something like that it becomes such a momentum shifter without it even intending to be a momentum shifter. So yeah, like I said, I enjoyed it. Looking forward to next week. Like I said, I'll be watching the All-Star game, but I'll also be working on, I'm doing some health wellness. So I'm looking forward to that. Been doing some changes there, from a personal development standpoint. I was able to face some reality in the last few weeks. I may have talked about it, but not really going into massive detail. I just got to get weight back under control, plain and simple. I had someone that kind of made a joke about my weight on a video, kind of offended me a little bit. I took it a little personal, and I shouldn't. But then to add to it, I've been asked to do something new in my routine, which is, along with my morning workouts, I'm also getting back to doing 10-minute walking. So today I did it, and it wasn't as bad as I expected. I know once I finished, I was like, yo, I'm tired. But tomorrow's gonna be interesting because I'll be physically in the office. So looking forward to that and see how that all goes. I mentioned this a little bit before, but I'll kind of unpack it a little bit more. Coding is going to be my lane, so I will be investing my time in learning some new coding languages. A lot of you will probably be like, oh, this is the tech talk that he's going to start teching us to death. But a lot of your everyday things that you use or utilize consist of one form of another of code, and you may not even know it. I always break it down when it comes to phones. Your phone had to be coded to work, whether you have an Android or an iPhone. Like I am always the bad guy who starts this riff of, it does not matter if you have an iPhone. It does not matter if you have an Android. If you ain't got no service, you just got a phone with no service. You got a dumb phone. And to make matters worse, the design and the development of things that are catered to each phone is all beneficial to the end user and what they're used to, what they're accustomed to, and what's going to be beneficial for what they're working on. So those are things to keep in mind with that. But I am going to be doing more learning with C#. I found like a kind of a quick read that's breaking that down, getting some knowledge in Python, also learning Java, just looking to kind of, expand my coding palette. Like I had a conversation with someone today, and their question they asked, which was a valid question, like, do I really have a love or passion for coding? And I'm like, I've come to the conclusion that ever since MySpace, along with, and this is going to show age, because I don't think College Crush did it, but MySpace and Black Planet alone taught people how to do HTML, and they didn't realize it. Then you expand to different applications in how you could modify little tricks and tips without knowing the ability that you had of doing that, all because of learning basic HTML, getting a little creative with CSS, with cascading style sheets. Those levels of code are so valuable. And in the back end, since I just learned it a couple of months ago, doing like JavaScript and React and SQL, like it's important. I believe I talked about it. Yeah. Okay. So yeah. All right. I did. And I just checked. Yeah, it was funny because I put yesterday Kyrie, or for last week it was Kyrie wants to trade. So Kyrie did get traded. He got traded for, can't remember the kid's name, but yeah, they went ahead and got that trade done to get Dwayne Finney-Smith and Spencer Dinwiddie. That's right. And then they were breaking down how, you know, Cameron Johnson as well as Mikal Bridges going to Brooklyn. Mikal Bridges was concerned because he hasn't missed a game in his entire career. So having to sit because of the trade, you know, how is that going to affect his stats as far as, you know, if you're going to play 82 games, not on the basis of starting, because I think he kind of is like a mixed role player between starting and playing off the bench. But yeah, I know that just like circled away from coding altogether. But yeah, C#, Python, Java, and kind of getting my hands a little more dirty with GitHub as well as Git, because if I'm seeing what I see coming, it's going to be beneficial to have that time to just learn and be a sponge. And I think this is the best time, if any, to put myself in a position to excel and grow in learning those skills. So yeah, that's kind of the ins and outs on those pieces, and that my kind of like a personal update, if you will. I owe the listeners a bit of an apology. And when I say I owe you all an apology, I'm saying that in the sense of I've given clarity, or I've given information related to bullet journaling. But by watching a lot of videos and me realizing how bullet journaling really works, I've been bullet journaling a little backwards. And I'll explain what I mean by that. I've used bullet journaling in the sense of task management. And there's nothing wrong with that. And there's no one's going to like chastise you if you choose to do it that way, because at the end of the day, and you'll hear people say this frequently, they'll say, you have your way or your choice to do bullet journaling to what suits you on a personal level. The bigger question becomes, is your way helping you become productive? And when I read the book initially about rapid logging, I've watched more videos from Ryder Carroll about rapid logging. And I actually watched a YouTuber, I don't remember his name, but him and his wife were having a conversation. He reintroduced himself back to bullet journaling, kind of similar to what I did. But he kind of, he did it for like a few months and then broke away from it. Like I did it for 2 years. I'll say, 2 years and a month, give or take. But it's intended to be for rapid logging in the sense that, so tasking, what normally would happen is you get up, you open your bullet journal, and you just start writing down everything you need to do that day. If you choose to do it that way, no one's going to chastise you. You're not going to get any grief for it. However, the more convenient way, or the best way to get your bang for your buck with bullet journaling is with the minimum, for those of us who are doing it in the minimalist form. I'm not talking about the aggressive, as I always like to call it, stay away from Pinterest options. Because if you go on Pinterest and look up bullet journaling, you won't do bullet journaling. I will tell you that from sheer raw experience. There was one point, and I think that's why I did not keep many of my original bullet journals, because I was starting to go that route where I would draw all of these like weekly spreads and add all of this stuff here and there. And I was like, I'm not using this to this extreme at all. It's not going to benefit me for where I'm trying to go or what I'm trying to do. And it's okay. It's nothing wrong with that. But it's better to acknowledge that than to sit and like put myself in this position of making something be what I don't need it to be. So on the rapid logging side, and I tested this out today, as my day progressed, I wrote down what I was doing or what I did. So for instance, and this is where habit tracking comes in. Habit tracking, this is probably going to be a whole separate unpack, but I'll talk about it a little bit. Habit tracking is things that you know you consistently need to do on a daily basis and keeping track of, did you do it every day? So for instance, and this might seem like a funny example, but okay, you have different medications you have to take. Did you take all of the medications on the days that you're supposed to take them? With me, with working out, I didn't think about it until just now. Habit tracking my workouts would be very, very eye-opening, because then it will show me, okay, if you got it fully shaded in, you did the workout. If you got it halfway shaded in, you worked on it, you started it, but you didn't finish it. If it's blank, you didn't do the exercise. And seeing that every day will tell you, like, okay, I'm skipping these exercises, so this is affecting me, and this is why I'm noticing this. Even down to your food tracking, like those are examples and or ways to really get like the habit tracking process in place. But as far as with the rapid logging, it's the same thing. So like when I had my call today for, to kind of talk about coding, any information that came from that call, I could have jotted down during the call. There was one point I was on the phone with someone, and we was on the phone for like an hour. And we were talking, at that time, that was when I was looking at doing cybersecurity. And he gave me kind of the rundown about cybersecurity. If you want to do Network Plus, you need to do Security Plus, like all of those things. And like I said, those are things I'm not doing now, but it's understanding like at that time, it could have possibly been beneficial to learn and have retention of. I want to say a couple weeks ago when I was doing ITIL. So anyone who's looking to do kind of get like a foundational certification, if a company is able to cover it, I would say go for that route. But it's a certification that kind of gives you like the introduction of tech and kind of like how the moving pieces work and how it's about the customer and the stakeholder and the investors, or the stakeholders, obviously. So just knowing those things becomes very important. But yeah, as far as bullet journaling goes, I'm getting a better handle on it. I've had the notebook case now probably close to a month. Still love it. I still carry all of the pens that I use. So I have a set of pens that I bought when I first did when I did what was known then as a vision board. I've since thrown that vision board away, and I'm sitting here having a moment thinking about it because I have the vision. I still have the markers from that vision board. I still have the pens that I bought from that vision board, and then I bought like these. I call them pigment pens. They're kind of like your traditional set that most people will buy. It's usually either a 6-pack or an 8-pack, where it will be different size tips like 0.005, 0.01, 0.03, 0.7. It's basically like how thick you would need your pen to be or how thin you need it to be for certain lines that you're drawing. This is like on a pen addiction level. So if this ain't your lane, I understand and I respect that. I'm even now excited because a friend of mine she's not someone I personally know, but I've kind of connected with her through her content related to ink pens and journaling. She's possibly going to be bringing out a new notebook soon, which if it is what I think it is, and let me be clear, if it's a traditional journal, I'm gonna likely rock with it. If it is a dotted based journal, I'm definitely going to rock with it, and it will be the new journal following up the bullet journal. following up the journal that I'm using now, that I got from one of my coworkers a couple of years ago. But yeah, circling all the way back to the main topic that I was talking about, yes, rapid logging is key, because whatever you work on or do during the day, write it out, write it down. Don't hold anything that you have or have not done off of those logs, because then that gives you that opportunity to look and say, look at what I did or look at what I didn't do, along with the fact that when you do your reflection, if you're doing a reflection, I personally have found, especially because this is what Ryder Carroll did with this version, with this year, which I think was on point, is he literally has it where you have the bullet journal as well as the stickers. The stickers are already set for you, where you get 2 stickers for the month. You have 2 stickers for every month, and then you have days 1 through 31 for 12 weeks. For 12 months. And then he has all the days, so you can start from whatever date you need to. And I just recently, thanks to my friend Special, I bought a sticker. I guess you can call it like a sticker. It's able to help you with placing stickers properly in notebooks. Because when I saw her go live one time and she used it, and I was like, what is that, and how do I get one? Now, judge all you want. The color that I got from the vendor that I got it from was pink. I don't care. As long as it works, I'm not tripping. Important piece, a tidbit of advice. If you use one of those, if it comes with the little cover, make sure the cover is with you at all times, only because you don't want to just have it randomly open and possibly poke you, or just to avoid any health concerns of any sort. So that is my tangent and roundabout way with the bullet journal. Message that I'm going to pass along is going to be tying into bullet journaling, but also an app that I just got introduced to. Now, I don't know the other apps that I've found online, but this one I was able to, as soon as I looked it up and seen kind of the main basis of how to use it, I've installed it so far on my phone. I have it running right now for the podcast. This is not a paid sponsorship, and I'm not pushing it as a paid sponsorship, but it is something that I think could be helpful to anyone who needs to track or keep an eye on their day. The name of the app is called Toggl Track, and it's Toggle without an E. So Toggl Track. And what it basically does, you can use it. Let me backtrack. You can use it via web. If you want to do it on the website, it is free. Let me make sure I give you that part. If you're a single user and you're just needing it for yourself, you don't have multiple amounts of people using it, it is free. It can be used on a website. It does have a standalone app for Windows, for Mac, for iPhone, for Android. I would not be surprised if they have one for iPad. I will also go a step further. They even, if I'm not mistaken, have a Chromebook. Why am I saying? A Chrome browser extension, which would give me the likelihood that if you can use it on Chrome, you should be able to use it on Firefox. I don't know if a lot of people know that both Chrome and Firefox are both open source browsers that function in an open source usage. And what I mean by that, and why that is important to share, is because if you're looking to utilize certain features such as themes, such as extensions, there's one theme, or one, not even a theme, but there's an extension I use. I used it on Chrome before, and I use it on Firefox now. It's called OneTab. Basically what OneTab does, OneTab will say, okay, you have all of these tabs that you have open. Obviously, you don't want to close all of those tabs, so you want them to be there when you come back. All you have to do is press the button at the far right that shows for one tab. It's going to look like a blue, almost like a little small parachute type of picture, but it's a line, small little line at the bottom, and then it looks like a little heart at the top. If you look up OneTab, it's one word, OneTab. you'll see what I'm referring to. When you click on it, it takes all of those tabs, put them in a group, and then saves that as a smaller tab on your computer or on your browser. So if you click on it again, you can go back and look at any of the previous sets of tabs that you saved without having to reopen tabs or, heaven forbid, go into your history to then look at tabs that you previously closed, which can be very frustrating and very annoying. Heaven forbid, if you literally have browsers or tabs open on other applications, on other devices, not getting them confused. I almost confused myself saying that. But all of that being said, use Toggl. Toggl will help you with improving your time management. And it also, and I think this is what attracted me to it low key, after I had installed it, I realized that it has Pomodoro built in. Any of you who listen to my podcast know I love a good Pomodoro app. I'm still trying to learn the kinks with it because it looks as though what it does is it'll do the countdown, but it doesn't do anything as far as like the transition between, okay, you're done with your focus point, let's take a break, things like that. And also, anyone I've shared this with before, I have the Marinara timer. I made a custom Marinara timer with their new version that they're beta testing. I have one that's set if you need to do the 5217 timer method, because I know a lot of people are not fans of the traditional 25/5, and I fully understand because, let's face it, 25/5 is so fast, which reminds me of, and I guess this is almost like a pass the message slash how can I describe this? A productivity section. Think Divergent. ThinkDivergent. Divergent. Divergent. I thought I was in a spelling bee just now. And I'm like, I had the app just now in front of me. Basically, Think Divergent. Now it's a web, so it is web-based and it's also app-based. There is no physical app on Windows and Mac that I know of. However, you can install it on your mobile devices and use it. But what it does is it will set a 30-minute timer, and it will find someone who's also in the app as well who needs someone as a body double, which I've talked about before on the podcast, to basically y'all become productive together. Yes, it has the limitation of only being a 30-minute time frame. The developers are just getting the app going. I think with time, I think with effort, and possibly with some funds, who knows, they will get it to kind of work to the advantage of the end user if they need to modify or make any changes accordingly. But where it's at now and how it's set up so far, I like the display. I like the design of it. It's very user friendly from the phone aspect. The phone aspect of it is cool. The web version of it I like a little bit better because the timer is a lot larger, as well as the fact, like anybody an underrated feature with a lot of apps or a lot of timers is that you're not going to keep certain pages open on your computer, but you'll still have the tab there to see it. If you have the tab physically there and can see a timer going, that's reminding you like, oh, the timer has so much time left. So those are things that I think about. I know a lot of people like, Brian, that is super extra level nerdy, but you'd be surprised who finds what beneficial in what moment. So to recap, and I just said a whole lot, so I hope I remember everything that I went into. Toggl Track app, check that out. Think Divergent app, check that out as well. I believe I may have mentioned, and I talked about Pomodoro with using the Marinara timer. If you're using the default version, totally fine. They have a beta test that they're trying out for a new look. If you want to try that one, you can as well. If you need to reach out to me to get the one that I have custom made, I have the original version that I've made that anyone can view and use at any time. I can also give you the link to help you with setting up your own, because you can customize your timer to any time frame you want. I've personally found 52:17 works as well as 45:15 works. 45:15 works because of the simple fact that it pushes you to be put in a 15-minute break position of, let me get up and go do something. So, like I said, all resourceful things, all messages to pass along. I will put notes on all of these because I talked about all of them, but did not give any links. And before anybody asks, these apps are all cross-platform. They're not Apple only, so I don't work like that. I make it a goal to make sure when thinking of or looking for applications that it's available to everyone, not some. That just ain't the right type of math. With that being said, I appreciate you all for listening. More shows in store. Like I said, next week will likely be All-Star Weekend update. If I watch all of it, because I know I can get, like, my attention span is very quickly. And yeah, I appreciate y'all always. Until next time, this is The Paz signing out, and y'all have a good one. Another episode is completed. Thank you all for listening. If you want to check out the podcast, you can go to buzzsprout.com. If you're looking to do podcasts, you can go to buzzsprout.com. To get to my podcast, you'll go to the passbtpod.buzzsprout.com. If you're looking at getting a microphone, I always suggest getting the Blue Yeti X. That is the microphone that I use. If you're starting off and you need something more affordable, Samson Meteor, it's a worthwhile investment. And there are other microphones that are going to be simple enough. My big suggestion I tell everyone whenever looking for a microphone, be sure that your microphone has the ability to have you listen to your audio or listen to yourself as you're talking. It will make a big difference in your editing and your podcast. Also, most importantly, and I tell people this is a tip offline, but I'm giving this in the final listen or at the end of the show. Drink water while recording, and also just drink water in general. But drink water while you're recording, and the reason why, you'll be surprised. All right, see y'all on the next show.